And welcome to today's Blissful cooking class. Today we're going to be doing a dessert, a summertime dessert, strawberry crostata, strawberry galette, depending on what country you're visiting. Crostata is the Italian version, galette is the French version. It's basically this beautiful rustic pie. It's so simple and beautiful. You can swap any fruits. It's just one of those recipes that is so lovely to have up your sleeve and to understand how to make it. It's very empowering to be able to throw together dessert like this. It doesn't have a lot of sugar in it too, which always feels nice. It's really beautiful and feels very special, and yet it's not difficult to put together. So we're going to get into it in a little bit, but first let's start with our breathing, as we always do. Let's bring our hands to heart center. I'm just going to do some long, slow, deep breaths. And prompt you today to just feel the sensation of the air as it goes through your nostrils, through your airway, down into your lungs, filling your lungs and your torso and your whole body. Just feel all of that pathway in and out. Now we're going to set our intention for our class today. What energy are you looking for? What are you trying to build? Just to be present is always a very, very good one. Okay. Hands come down. Let's get started. Like I said, with crostata, we begin with a crust. And so that means flour. Oh, 1 stick of butter, half a cup of butter. I've put it in the freezer, and this is sort of my trick. I've actually done it. It's already been in there for about a half hour. If you're doing this along with me, you can do it without freezing. It's really, really helpful to freeze it. To begin with, I just couldn't put it in and then wait all the time and have us do this in a timely manner. But this is my trick, and I will show you in a moment why it's such a nice, easy way to make a short crust pastry, which is the type of pastry that we use for pie, the flaky pastry that we want to sort of be falling apart, have chunks of butter in it. There are so many methods to making it. Some people don't think this method is very good. They have some issues with it. I think there's so many things, but I find this one very accessible, makes it very doable, and it does have a good result. And so to me, it's sort of the perfect, that's, one of those charts where it's like all the trade-offs. It's like, this may not be as perfect as one where you did this other method, but it takes far less time. It's simple, it's doable. And I think it has really great results. So we'll see what you think. But I'm going to start with 1 1/4 cups of sugar. Sugar, flour, 1 1/4 cups of sugar. That would be for making cookies or something. That's not what we're doing today. One cup. Oh, so 1/3 cup. Whoopsie. I don't know where my 1/4 cup is. I'm going to sort of eyeball this to be a 1/4, slightly less than a 1/3. There we go. Close enough, I say. And now we're going to do a little bit of salt. I think the recipe calls for 1/2 teaspoon. and then a little bit of sugar as well. Again, refer to the recipe. I don't quite recall. I don't really care about having a lot of sugar in my short crust, to be honest. So for me, I frequently just will even not add any at all. Just a little mixy. We could also use a whisk just to mix the salt and sugar in there before we do the very important next step, the butter. And you'll see that I have this box grater out here, and that's how we're going to add the butter in, which is different because we want to have large pieces of butter that are not mixed in with everything. This is a really great way, and it stays frozen for a long time, so the pieces don't sort of melt and blend together, and you get these big curls of butter that you can really work with to create a great texture. So that's what I'm going to be aiming for here. I'll show you. This is my very cold half cup of butter. I'll be grating into here. So I'm going to just place the box grater into here and grate it, allowing the little curls to fall. Woo, this is I think it was on for longer than a half hour. So it's super, super frozen. So it's going to take me a little while. But that's okay, right? That's what we always do here. We take our time. If we have it. It's warm here now. That's why it's nice to have this frozen butter in my hand, quite frankly. Okay, move that aside. As you can see, so here are these little curls in here. I'm going to keep going with this other half. Oh, my arm is a little sore. So much pressing. Whew. Goodness. Okay. And so you might go like, oh, this looks a little cumbersome. It's so much easier than the usual way, which is to take very cold butter and sort of chop it up and then try to keep them in the right sizes. In this case, it's basically everything is sort of the right size that it should be. I'm just going to cut up a few of these little bits with if you can't see. Just these bits that are a little awkward to use on the box grater. There we go. And just throw those in there. Whew. And get my cold water. And so, as you can see, basically what I want to do at this point is just cover all of the butter with flour. And now we're going to add in the water all at once. And I'm very gently going to bring this all together. Just, you can see how my hands are kind of just moving like this. And this is not kneading. This is not bread making. We do not want to have a smooth, homogeneous dough. We want to have, well, we kind of do want it to be homogeneous, but we want it to be just on the verge of mixed together because we want to have pieces of butter because that's what creates the flaky layers of the pastry. And so that's about sort of where I want it. You can see it's like really not together yet, but I'm going to dump it out onto my cutting board, or you could use straight onto your countertop, whatever works for you, whatever you have. And so now I'm just bringing it together, allowing the moisture to kind of slowly seep in. It will look very like, oh, is this right? So just watch me. You know, pastry making is definitely an art and there is a process to it. It's very different, but I'm feeling the cold of the butter, feeling the moisture begin to come through. And now I'm going to flip it because I can feel that it's sort of drier on the bottom. I'm going to try to just keep mixing. We want to keep everything cold because, again, that's what keeps, we don't want the butter to melt. We don't want it to mix in. We don't want to activate the gluten, actually, the way that we do with making bread. We don't want it to be chewy. We want it to be flaky. Okay, so this is actually pretty much done. And so when in recipes, you might have heard this, and I think I've used this in a lot of my recipes when I'm talking about pastries, you want the dough to be shaggy. This is what I mean. See how it's like shaggy at the edges? And kind of go like, is that done? It's like, yeah, that's actually kind of how it's supposed to be. So it's a little moist on the bottom. Let me just get a couple more goes, but that's about right. And now I'm going to, well, first I'm going to just wash my hands. Just enough. And I'm going to get some, what am I going to do? I guess plastic wrap is going to be my go-to today. I usually do use plastic wrap. I sometimes like parchment as well. And we're going to wrap this. Awkward. There we go, quickly. This little disc. And I'm going to put this in the freezer to get cold again for another 20 minutes or so. We might not wait that long because we'll see how we get on here, but there we are. That is the pastry, sort of step one. I'm just going to note the time, 12:44, okay. So 20 minutes would be a little after 1. Probably won't go that long. I'm going to just check. I'm just realizing I didn't set the oven. 425. Thank you. I have this oven. It gets hot so fast. It's crazy. It's just a regular oven. There's nothing, this is not a fancy one. And yet I'm constantly like, how does it get hot so quickly? It's amazing. So I don't usually have to worry about setting it really in advance. That is my good luck. And so that's our crust. Now we're going to do our filling. And our filling is strawberries with sugar and lemon and a little bit of flour to bring everything together. to these fabulous fresh strawberries. And give them another little rinse. And then, so depending on the size of the strawberries, if you had smaller ones, you might do this differently. I'm going to just get rid of the green part and kind of to a certain extent, this tough middle, but it'll all fall apart because we're going to be baking. It's going to become all syrupy, jammy, gooey, delicious. I'm going to slice this in half. And I'm going to I think I'm going to make small slices like this. So these are not going to sort of stay this size as they bake. They're going to kind of shrink and their juice is going to flow and mix with the sugar and with the flour that we're using. And that will create this gooey syrup that will hold it all together. So just think about that when you think about what size you want your strawberries to be. You could do chunkier or smaller. They're both great. Like it all works. But although I guess I would stay away from like too chunky because then the juices will not flow as readily. Fabulous. And so I'm going to get this into the oven, and I think it takes 35 minutes to cook. And while I love us being so mindful together, I do think that is probably too long of a meditation for us to do together today. So I think what I'll do is I'll say goodbye to you then, and I'll send through a picture of the final product so you can see how beautiful it is. But we're going to be getting this into the oven, and then that will be that for today. If I wasn't doing these live, if it was a more edited thing, I could sort of fast forward, but I don't like to do that. I like to show you guys how much time things really take and how we can choose to slow down, as you know, because I say it all the time. Whew, this is a crazy big one. I'm going to slice that one up into quarters before I slice it more. So it's strawberry season right now. So that's what we're doing. The recipe that I'm referencing is one of mine from a deeper summertime when it was more blueberry season. You could do a mix of blueberries and strawberries. You could do blackberries. You could do a mix of all kinds of berries. You could do pineapple. You can do, of course, one of my favorites is peaches or apricots or nectarines. Just incredible. Really just about any fruit. I don't know, I've never done it with like banana or something. I think you could do it that way. You might want to think about like a banana pudding and do like a custard on the bottom and then add the bananas, and that would be amazing. It would be like anything you can do with pie, you can do with a crostata, and I'll show you. We're going to roll out the pastry, and then we dump our filling in the middle, and we just fold it up around like a cute little package. And so anything that can sort of be in a filling like that and can be baked will work. I love to do like an all fruit, but you can do, a lot of people do, I think like in French, in a galette, it's very frequently they'll do like a frangipane, like a crushed almond paste underneath some fruit, which is amazing. But yeah, like a pastry cream, sort of puddingy kind of thing with bananas would be amazing. Anything you like. And of course you can, I mean, I'm thinking about that pineapple one now, and I'm thinking like, you could do like some mint, and I would do like more brown sugar in there. Oh, it's pretty fun. These are good strawberries. Yeah, still tart enough that I can feel it making my salivary glands go. Do you know that feeling? Like with citric acids, there's this sort of sharp sensation that you can feel at the back of your tongue, and the sensors that sense sour, and it sends this sharp sort of spike down through your jaw, and then you end up salivating a little bit more. It's like this very quick call to your body to go, oh, we need more saliva to manage what's coming through here. I'm going to chop these guys up a little bit. But I don't know. I just feel like a dessert. It's so optional, so delightfully optional, you know? And, you know, there's this kind of belief, like we put love into our food and that's what makes it taste good. And I think that's a really sweet idea and something I'd sort of like to write more about, because on the one hand, I think it's a beautiful thing. I was talking to my friend Julia Hanna recently, who's a culinary art therapist, and she was talking about how it's a nice idea, but it also gives a lot of pressure to people where it's like, oh, if I don't like my food, or if people don't like my food, does that mean I don't put enough love into it? It's like, yikes, that's definitely not the outcome we want to be experiencing, right? We don't want to be feeling that. That somehow we're lacking in that. But I do think there's something really sweet and beautiful. And I just think it's true of everything we do. Cooking is one of those things that we talk about a lot because it's such an important form of nourishment, and it's something that so many of us experience, and it's associated with caregivers, you know, our parents, our grandparents, people in our families were sort of the first people to make food for us. And when someone makes food for us, they are, what's the right word I'm looking for? They're seeing to our needs. They are taking care of our needs. And there's something very important about that. And when we can do that with love, with extra love, and to sort of say, I like taking care of your needs. Your needs are special to me. We can give that to ourselves. I like, you know, with every chop, we can go, I like you. You matter to me. Your needs, your nourishment is a pleasure to me to, here we go, to meet. That is, I think, the way in which we can kind of be putting love into the food. And whether or not we can taste it, who cares? It's more about how, again, the focus on the process that I always talk about. How can we feel good while we're doing this? And that way, and we're changing our brain chemistry. We're changing our brain tissue, actually. Every time we do that, we're reprogramming ourselves to think of something, what we're doing, cooking, making something as, you know, a chore, something annoying, something difficult, into something that is easeful and loving. And I think that's a real, an incredible opportunity for us. So I just added about 2 tablespoons of sugar. I think less than that, to be honest. I think I might add a bit more because these are not super sweet strawberries. We don't want much sugar in here, but at the same time, we do need the sugar to mix with the sugars of the strawberry enough. And then we're also going to add about 2 tablespoons of flour. I just don't have my measuring spoon, so I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm pretty good at eyeballing. 2 tablespoons of flour. You could also use cornstarch if you're allergic to gluten. And I'm just going to make sure everything's covered. Oh, I'm going to do lemon zest on here too. This isn't actually, I think that's what the recipe calls for. I'm kind of feeling something else. Like, what about some cardamom? Ooh. Yeah, ground cardamom. That's what I'm feeling for some reason. Strawberries and cardamom today. So that's what I'm going to do. Just a little bit. This is probably about half a teaspoon. strawberries. There we go. That's our filling. Done. Wash my hand again. Wonderful. And then I'll just point out that I have this sheet pan already, and I have this liner, the silicone liner in it. If you don't have these, and seriously, if you're all into baking or roasting or anything, get these. They're so nice. They keep the sheet pan so clean, and nothing sticks to them. They're just the best. And that way you don't have to keep using baking parchment, which feels wasteful to me. I've never really liked doing that. So prepare that. And then I'm going to prepare this space for our pastry. Like I said, if you really want to have sort of the utmost best results, I would wait another 10 minutes. But I'm going to show you how to do this, and it'll be good even with a shorter cooling time. So we're going to sprinkle flour everywhere to keep things from sticking, which will tear the dough and mix up the butter more, which we don't want, right? Remember? So here we go. Boop. We have our little disc. I'm going to put flour on the top as well, so that when I use my rolling pin, nothing is going to stick. As you can see, remember that idea of shagginess? We can see that all over here, shagginess. Just being very gentle. Bring this out, and now I'm going to spin it. And I can see that it's taking a lot of flour underneath, so I'm going to flip it and add a little bit more. This is really a slow process, and please, if it's your first time making this, be kind to yourself. There's an art to making pastry, and it does take time. I'm giving as many tips as I go along as possible, but at the same time, it's not the easiest thing. It just requires technique, and so that means it's going to be something that you are going to learn over time. So I'm just gently going to create something round. As you can see, it's getting long each time, so then I'm going to spin it again, and I'm going to flip it too, because I can see we're sticking once again. We don't want that. More flour. Flipperoo. More flour on top. And I do like to flip it so that I'm always kind of trying to keep it round, and I'm pushing straight forward rather than going from side to side. And you might say, how flat should I be making this? And gosh, I'm not always great at, I think in the recipe I tell you an amount, and you should listen to that if you're thinking about that. But I basically go until I'm like, that looks like the right size to me. And it sort of gets about as big as this cutting board, which is, I think this is 12 by 12. Nice and round. As you can see, I was like, oh, I could just, and I could. And that's not the end of the world either. Just sort of mess around. Make it a little flatter there. Just trying to have everything even. And if the edges are like, whoa, these are way different. Mine looks so different. It's not as round. Yeah, that happens to me all the time too. This is looking actually like pretty darn round. That's kind of unusual. But I'm trying to go for having the same thickness everywhere. And that's looking really good. They're a little thinner in some places. I don't know if you can pick up on the camera, but I can see that there's just pieces of butter sort of under the surface. And that's really what we want. We don't want it to look homogeneous. We want it to look like, oh, butter there. That's what's going to create our flaky texture. So here we go. Oh, no. Oh my gosh. What am I doing? That would make things very difficult to transfer. What I'm going to do is transfer this beautiful pastry directly onto here. As you can see, that kind of takes a little bit of skill. We have to be really gentle with that. Some people use their rolling pin. I've sometimes done that. I find it's actually just easier with my hand, so that's what I did. And if some of it rips, you can piece it back together. Like, look at this piece. Like, why is it there? So this is how you can kind of make repairs and stuff. All good. This is a shaggy, rustic thing. So that is okay. If you had a break, don't worry about it. It's all good. We are just learning and having an experience here. Strawberries. Right in the middle. Oh, look at these guys. Yum. Okay. And now we're going to fold our pastry, just like this. Like a little basket. Fold, 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 and fold. That's it. Cool, hey? Makes me super excited. I'm just like, God, I just really love when things are simple. And the last thing we're going to do is some egg wash all over it and a little bit of sprinkling of sugar for fun. You don't have to do this, but it creates a more beautiful golden crust. Makes it a little easier to tell when it's done. And so you want a pastry brush. And I gotta tell you, unfortunately, there's just no other implement that works. You know, you can use a fork to mix it up, but then actually brushing it onto the pastry, I don't know what else to use. Like, you can use a paintbrush, like if you have a paintbrush, and make sure that's clean. It's just one of those things. And I really like this. I like silicone products in the kitchen in general. I find them really easy to clean and useful. Okay. And so now, as you can see, I'm just, this on camera, right? Good. Should check that. I'm just brushing the egg all over. This is a very bright yolk egg, so it's super easy to see. This is also just like a nice, relaxing task. I think this is often one of those, I hear from a lot of people say like, oh, when I'm baking, I feel very relaxed, but when I'm cooking sort of on a weeknight, I don't feel very good. And I think that's because usually when we're baking, we're not baking to like get dinner on the table and people are hungry, and there's the utilitarian kind of energy that we bring to those situations. And whereas with something like making this, you probably don't need to be doing it. You're doing it because you want to and you had time. And that always feels good, right? That freedom of, I actually want to be doing this, not that I have to thing. And so I guess that's lovely. And to just appreciate that when you get to have those times. And it's also okay, really okay, that a lot of the time when we cook, it isn't necessarily exactly what we want to be doing, but that we can still bring this energy and those deep breaths, that we don't have to be rushing. Actually don't have to be. What's the worst that could happen if we didn't rush? Be like 2 minutes later. And we can notice that we can still feel good even in those times where it feels like more of a chore. But you know what I'm talking about. Okay, now we're going to sprinkle sugar. And this would be, if you have like thicker grained sugar, like, wow, my words are just all escaping me today. It's very funny, actually. Like turbinado sugar, that would look really beautiful. It'll look all like sparkly on top when it bakes. This regular stuff might just get lost, but I'm doing it anyway. So this is it. This is what it looks like before it goes in the oven. And I think I'm gonna say goodbye to you right after this. And I will send you through a photo of the finished product. And I hope that this went really well for you. So 35 minutes or so. And I guess the things to look out for are, actually. I just realized my very smart tip is to put it on the low shelf. Yes, keep it on the low shelf or even on the bottom of the oven, because often with something like this, the underside of the pastry sort of doesn't get as much direct heat. And so when it's coming up from below and you have the metal pan underneath, you can just get a crispier bottom crust and the same sort of time as it takes to get the crispiness on the part that's exposed sort of to the hot air in the oven as well. So that's just nice. It helps just create a more even end product usually, but you never know. So what you're looking for is for everything to be nicely browned, and the bottom to be crisp enough that it's not like gooey and falling apart. If that is happening, oh my gosh, keep it in for a few more minutes. And then the center will goo and it will probably break out of the pastry and like some will escape. And that's a good thing. That's what these are like. Like the juices of the strawberries will run everywhere and it'll be delicious, and it's meant to be rustic. So just keep that in mind. You can serve this with whipped cream, with coconut cream, if you're not doing dairy, anything, ice cream, anything you like. I'm feeling very dreamy and relaxed today. I hope you are too, this beautiful Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining me. I think I'm going to try to do something with miso per Becky's request next week, and keep the requests coming. Also, please tell your friends, tell your family if you're enjoying this, so that I can keep doing them and maybe make them better over time. That would be wonderful. Thank you so much. Let me know if you have any feedback or any requests or anything. Otherwise, I will talk to you next time. Bye.